Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Native Podcast. My name is Ryan Anderson, your host. Today, we're joined by Amr Awadallah, VP of Developer Relations at Google Cloud. Amr, thanks for joining.
Of course, Ryan. It's my pleasure to be here.
So before we jump into the conversation, let me share some context as to why I'm excited to chat with you today. Amr received his PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford. He served as the VP of Product Intelligence Engineering at Yahoo, where he ran one of the very first organizations to use Hadoop for data analysis and BI. He then co-founded and served as the CTO of Cloudera, a multi-billion-dollar enterprise data company. And what I found most impressive about you, Amr, is kind of your focus on customer empathy, truly understanding their problems, so that we can help solve them together. To get started, tell us more about your background in technology and kind of your journey.
Well, 40 years ago, how far ago should I go? 40 years ago, my dad got me this very special keyboard cartridge thing that I could plug into my Atari console. And that was my first exposure to technology from a programming perspective. It had BASIC in it, and I can actually do basic programming on my Atari console. And that started to get me very excited about the potential of software and how it can truly change the world around us. And that was the beginning, and I pursued my passions from that point forward, and that's what got me to where I am today.
Any favorite Atari games?
From back then, I can't remember the name of the games, unfortunately, but yes, I remember what they look like, but it's hard to remember the names of the games themselves. Maybe if you mention something, I can tell you, yes, that was one of them.
There were some, Space Invaders, Pong. I grew up playing those.
Yeah.
So tell me, fast forward a little bit. Kind of walk me through your career, and as you started working for different enterprises like Yahoo, the foundation of Cloudera. Share some of that.
As you said, I came here to get my PhD from Stanford, and actually my goal was to get my PhD from Stanford and then go back to Egypt to teach. So I really love teaching. Education is something I'm very passionate about. Explaining very hard concepts to people is something that truly excites me. So that was my goal. But then I frequently joke and say that Stanford corrupted me because Stanford is a very entrepreneurial school. From day one, they teach you about entrepreneurship. You get to see all of the companies that came out of Stanford, Google included, as one of them. And very quickly, it's like, maybe I should look into this entrepreneurship thing. So I changed my path from pursuing a PhD towards becoming a professor to being an entrepreneur. I started my first company. I took actually a leave from Stanford PhD program, started my first company. It was a company called VivaSmart. And we were 1 year old when Yahoo acquired us. So that's how I ended up at Yahoo, is they acquired my first company. 1 year old, 5 people. It was a great experience. Learned a lot and made some very good money from it as well, given the effort. And while at Yahoo, I spent 8 years at Yahoo. I told them I want to finish my PhD because my dad is insisting I do. And that was true. He kept nagging me every day, you have to go back and finish. So I was able to finish my PhD at Stanford with a great professor, advisor. His name is Mendel Rosenblum. And many would know Mendel Rosenblum. He's the founder of VMware. So he's very well known in the industry. One of the best professors in the world, in my opinion. I'm biased a bit, of course, because I did my PhD with him, but he is amazing. He's so accomplished, yet so humble, extremely humble. It's really impressive how humble it is, given the accomplishments that he has. And then from Yahoo, as you mentioned, I was one of the very first teams to try Hadoop and the big data technologies for specifically for the use case of data science and business intelligence. Hadoop was being built for search, for how to crawl the web and build an index of the web to enable search. Back then, people were not really thinking about it for these kind of use cases. And my team had a very hard query called the monster query. The monster query was a very big query that joined 2 tables together. Very simple, actually, but big in terms of size. And it brought all of the traditional data warehousing technologies, I'm not going to name names, to their knees. They just couldn't do it. or they could do it, but they have to pay like insane amounts of money that doesn't justify even running the query to do it. And I was fortunate that that team that was building Hadoop said, hey, try it out for that monster query. And they helped me out, and we tried it. And it was night and day in terms of performance, the economics, the flexibility of being able to do other things, not just SQL. So you can do more advanced like data science, machine learning, or ETL, data pipeline engineering. And that's what inspired me to, hey, maybe there's an opportunity to create a company around this. And that's when I left Yahoo and joined up with some of my co-founders from Facebook, Google, and Oracle. And that's how we formed Cloudera. So that's briefly the story of Cloudera.
That's amazing. And then, from there, you joined Google.
Yes.
What's the story of you kind of moving to Google, and, what got you excited about the opportunity?
Yeah, I spent 11 years at Cloudera, and the 11 years that were amazing years. So I don't regret any single moment of them. But then I start towards the end, it's like there's a lot more happening in the world beyond big data. And I want to see what's going on. And one of the best places to do that is here and learn about what's going on. Because Google really has their, especially Google Cloud, not Google at large, but Google Cloud, that now with all the product offerings they have their toes in many, many things, right? So there is the serverless movement, which is a very, very foundational movement to how we do software development and system deployment in the future. So that one was one of the very key reasons, coupled with Anthos, which is this platform that allows you to essentially, first, it simplifies the development process, makes it much easier to develop and operate systems at scale, but more importantly, allows you to write code once and then run it anywhere. It could be running on-premise in your organization. You could be running it in Google Cloud, or even in some of Google's competitors. You can be running it as well. So you just write your application once, and it can just work anywhere. I find that very, very appealing. And of course, all the work that Google is doing on the AI ML front is just outstanding in terms of the image processing, video processing, and the assistant work that we have for the contact center AI to help answer the calls, just like we have a Google Assistant, but doing it more for corporations. It's just all of these things are very exciting to me, and to learn more about them, what better place to be than to be here at Google Cloud.
I think it's amazing because there's over 200 services, and that's just Google Cloud. Google also has 9 other business units that have over 1 billion users on their applications. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I also heard in another one of your talks that you were from Egypt, and so the pyramids of Anthos, just made it a very natural fit.
Yes, that's true. Like that was, of course, I was joking when I said that, but the logo for Anthos is 3 pyramids inside of each other, like this. And of course, being an Egyptian, we all have very strong affinity to pyramids. So I think that helped seal the deal when I saw that logo. Yes,
meant to be.
Yeah, it was like a sign. It's meant to be. You're right.
So tell me more about your role at Google now. Kind of what is your title? What is your focus?
So I'm Vice President of Developer Relations for Google Cloud. And our group works with all the teams across of Google, to Google Cloud specifically, to do this, to win the hearts and minds of developers. And we do that by both inspiring them about the art of the possible, the new things they can do, and why this new approach will help them be a lot more productive, build more reliable and more scalable and secure systems. And then we couple that with the education aspect of how they can actually do that and hold their hand through the process. So our team produces all of the documentation, the sample code, the reference implementations that helps you as a developer to very quickly get up and running on top of the Google Cloud.
And I mean, what are some of the examples of how you engage with the developers? And maybe if I'm a developer, where could I get started to learn more?
Yeah, we have 3 different things that we do that help developers get started, and then we approach them in different ways. So let me go over that briefly. The 3 things that we do is, first, the documentation, the technical documentation that describes the products and the APIs and the capabilities on how, not just the how, not just the what you can do with a given product, but how you can do it, and walk you through these steps in a very descriptive way, prescriptive way for how you can implement something. So that's on the documentation front. But documentation alone doesn't work. You need to have sample code that actually illustrates what's going on, that gets embedded inside of that documentation, that walks you through that. So that's another very key aspect, is we generate lots of examples and lots of sample code that the developers can take and extend or customize to their own use case that they're trying to build. And then last, we have also, actually not last, there's one more thing. As part of the sample code, we're also responsible for the libraries. So all of the libraries that the developer code against is also built by this team for different languages, for Python, for Go, for C++, for Java, you name it. Like there was about 11 or 12 languages that we support very closely. And then last but not least is the advocacy function, which is about talking to the developers and inspiring them what they can do. And advocacy, we do it in, excuse me, the advocacy part, we do it in different ways. So there is what we call scalable advocacy, and that means we're publishing the training or the education on YouTube or on a blog post where anybody anywhere in the world can go and consume that. So that's a very big part of what the advocacy function does. But then there is one-to-one and one-to-many engagement. So one-to-one, where our advocate would go to a given customer and spend time with them, with their developers, educating them. But that tends to be reserved for the top customers in terms of spend with the Google Cloud. Every now and then we'll do it for some up-and-coming customer that we think has the potential to be that. And then there's one-to-many, where we'll bring a few of our customers together, developers from our customers together, and do a session with them to get them inspired and educate them on one of the 200 different products that we have in Google Cloud to make them better at using and consuming that product. So that's the quickest I've ever described what we do in this team.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. It's amazing. And I want to shift. I think, you specifically, given kind of your history in technology and watching the ecosystem evolve, now being a part of a team that's gets to see kind of trends across customers. Tell me about kind of what you're seeing. I mean, what kind of trends and innovations are you seeing right now when it comes to the enterprise?
So I'm actually going to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I want to talk about the pain points right here, right now, some pain points that we see with our customers. And the number one pain point by far is skill sets. The skill sets are still lacking in many places. Lots of training and education needs to take place. I also should mention that, of course, we have a very rich training program here at Google Cloud that can give you more longer training sessions than we do. As advocates, we come in and do education, very quick, 1 hour, 2 hour sessions. We don't do like a multi-week engagement, but we also have paid training offers where you can get the full paid training and you can get certification that you complete the training, which can also be very useful with the career for the developers themselves. And now I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, so more about trends and kind of innovation that you're seeing.
So helping our customers build the skill sets is extremely important. And that's what they need right here, right now. Advising them, how do they structure their processes and how they structure themselves to work better in this cloud mode of doing things. Like, why are we going after cloud? It's not because we just want to save money. It's because we want to be a lot more agile. That's really the bottom line. Like companies and organizations and customers that are working with us, they want to transform themselves to be a lot more digital in nature, to allow them to move much quicker than ever before, because we have been seeing this massive innovation wave happening across all industries. And they know if they don't innovate and move faster on that dimension, they can get displaced, even if they're the leader in their industry. And we have been seeing that happen over and over again. So that's the key trend that they want to latch on, and that we need to help them with. Is first, we need to meet them where they are, and we need to understand where they are, which technologies they're using right now, whether that be a mainframe, which is very, very legacy in my opinion, or more modern technologies. And then we need to help them first integrate with that as is, but then over time move that to a more modern architecture that allows them to be much more agile, that allows them to speed up the time from when you publish a line of code, finish writing a line of code, to when that line of code is in production, running with full security, with full governance, with full reliability, with full availability, and with ability to roll back very easily if something was wrong. Like all of these things, customers are super excited about, and they know they need. So that's the right here, right now. And then the future, of course, the more advanced things that we have in our portfolio would be things like the AI, ML efforts that we have, obviously, though we are spending a lot of time in Google Cloud to simplify all of that. So we are building pre-built packages that already can solve AI problems right away in given industries, right? So we have an AI package right now, as I mentioned earlier, for doing the voice assistant stuff. It's called Contact Center AI, that help organizations to simplify the contact. When somebody calls them, they can have a conversation, and it just feels like you're speaking with a human being on the other side, truly helping you solve your problem. So that's extremely exciting to see that, and I think that's going to be a very strong trend in the future. A similar trend we have on the AI front is the document processing capabilities with AI, and we have a specific solution right now for the mortgage industry where the document AI can parse the mortgage documents and read all the terms and check them and make sure the stuff is spelled out correctly, etc., fully automated right now, and do it faster and better than humans can. So that's super exciting to see that happening. And then you couple that with Anthos, which is this amazing platform that allows you to build your code once and run it anywhere, whether that be inside your organization, the cloud, or at the edge. So one of my favorite customers that we work with is Major League Baseball, where they run some of the video processing needs to happen in the stadium, in the ballpark, because the videos are 8K, are huge in terms of size, and to stream that back to a central location, do the processing is not going to work from a latency perspective. So they have to push the processing to happen in the ballpark, and they need to be ready if something fails in the ballpark from a server perspective to shift the workload very quickly to another close by ballpark where they can still do the analytics. So that's super exciting, and that's kind of what's coming up next, is all of that flexibility around AI, ML, and just being able to develop in a way that we just couldn't fathom 20 years ago.
It's amazing. I've heard you talk about Anthos in a similar way to Android, and kind of what Android enabled applications to do and kind of scale. Anthos is going to do the same thing in the enterprise.
Exactly. So Android is the front end, Anthos is the back end, right? So Android on the front end enabled all the front end developers building mobile apps to have a system that solves all of the mundane problems for them: how to do security, how to do the UI, how to do notifications, how to do sound, the camera, how to access the camera. Solves all of that for them so they can focus on the logic that truly differentiates what they're building. And Anthos is doing that exact same thing on the back end, so that you now can scale whatever you're building to planet scale, to the entire planet, and you can do it in a way that is very secure, reliable, and performant.
No, that's great. And let's talk a little bit about Google Cloud. I mean, you talked about, the ML and the AI, and I think about in my personal life, most of the products that I use are the ones that treat me as an individual, that they cater to me, and to be able to scale up like a Spotify and do that at scale, give everyone their own personalized playlist, or a Netflix, give everyone their own personalized watch list. Let's talk about Google Cloud and kind of our approach. I mean, how would you say Google Cloud is different in our approach to the market?
It's a very so first, we're very similar, to be honest and blunt. Like the portfolio products that we have is very similar to what you would get from some of our competitors out there. So in terms of the actual names of the products and the functional aspects of it at a very high level is very, very similar. But when you start to really drilling down into the details, we are very focused at Google, very focused on simplifying the developer lifecycle experience as much as possible, and truly catering to their needs and what they need to do to speed up their development without shooting themselves in the foot. And it's one of the core principles inside of Google, even for our own Google engineers inside of Google, as we build our Google products. We are maniacal when it comes to how you build automation and instrumentation about the workflow of the engineers to help them be super productive and prevent them from making mistakes. Because at the end of the day, mistakes come from humans. Let's be very blunt about this. Very rarely would the mistake come from a computer. And if the mistake comes from the computer, you fix it once and will never happen again. With a human, you fix it once and it will still happen again, right? And we know that, right? So that kind of a maniacal focus on adding all of this scaffolding around the workflow of a developer or a technical practitioner at large. It could be a data scientist, it could be a system operator, it could be a database administrator, it could be somebody using our BI suite from Looker. And it's not just developers. When we say developers, we really mean technical practitioners are at large. How do we add all of that automation around them to make their lives as productive as possible, while helping them minimize the probability of making any mistakes? And we extend that even to our. We now have a very rich suite with the AppSheet integration with Apigee that allows you to do very low code and even no code implementation of apps. Like literally with AppSheet, you can go and say create an app, and you give it your data, and machine learning will figure out how to create the app for you. And you just need to go and fine-tune a few things, move a few boxes here or there, move a drop down from here to there, and you will have an app up and going in no time. I mean, it's really mind-boggling how good that is. But it still does that and gives you now I'm going to give that we call that the citizen developer movement, right, where we give that capability to be a developer to anybody. Like somebody in HR can be a developer, somebody in finance can be a developer, but if you do that and you're going to open that to everybody, you still need to do it with very proper guardrails to give them the power to build very powerful apps without causing damage. And that's kind of the balance, and that's truly unique and special about Google, is that. Now we have many other things, is all of our great work in AI and ML, which I think is far superior than our competition. Our massive data centers with dedicated networking across the world, which I think are unmatched. Our focus on the environment and having all of that be very green, and in terms of the CO2 emissions, I think we're way ahead of competition when it comes to that. So there are many other aspects like that that really make us shine. But I think the bottom line is we truly help organizations transform themselves to be digital and to be super innovative, and enabling all of their folks to be super innovative without making mistakes, with minimizing mistakes as much as possible.
And I heard a customer share that with me the other day who has tried all the major public clouds, and he said, you are the innovation cloud. I think that's how, those who've used across, that's the way we view you. Yes. Can you speak to kind of Google's approach when it comes to open cloud and the strategy around being open?
Yeah, very good point. But first, on the innovation cloud, I really want to double click on that. Innovation is great, but if you don't couple innovation again with the proper guardrails that prevent you from doing mistakes, then innovation can backfire. Right. So again, I like that we have the reputation of being an innovation cloud, but sometimes customers can look at that and have the perception of, oh, that means you're not very reliable. That means you're not very secure. That means no, absolutely not. That's one of the areas where we spend a lot of attention to that, to make sure that we enable, first, we are very innovative internally. We enable you to be very innovative and do it in a way that minimize any chances of failure. It's very hard to mix these two things and do them right. And I think that's what's special, is the combination of both of these things, and not just the innovation part of it. So open cloud, it's. I don't need to. Of course, I'm biased because I am at Google, but there's lots of evidence of how Google truly believes in openness. In openness in terms of standards. So we have many open standards that Google created. One of them, of course, the most popular one is Kubernetes. TensorFlow would be another one. And Android, of course, is a massive standard out there. And Chrome, who can argue with that as being one of the best. Even Microsoft now, the new browser that Microsoft launched is based on the Chromium open standard. So Google truly believes in openness as a key principle to enable innovation going forward. If you want to be innovative as an organization, and I'm not speaking about just Google, even Google's customers, openness is a very key ingredient to that, because you can first hire engineers that will know that thing, the open thing you're working on, whether that be Kubernetes or otherwise, and can be up and running on it very quickly. And second, you are now have more as a customer using that open technology. You have more control over your destiny. That's really the reason why openness worked in the future, like why Linux became Linux and why Red Hat became Red Hat, is the customers saw that, yes, this Linux platform, compared to all of there was many Unix technologies, I'm not going to name their names because some of them are with partners or competitors of Google Cloud, that all died. And the only one that survived and became the major Unix distribution is Linux. And the reason why is all of the CIOs and the CTOs and the CEOs adopting that in their organizations saw it as giving them this card of this open technology based on open source, based on open standards. You can go with a vendor to support it for you, but if that vendor starts getting greedy, and I'm being very blunt here, starts getting greedy and charge you more than the fair value that technology is delivering to you, you have the choice to go to another vendor who also supports that open standard, or you also have the choice to just build your own internal team that maintains that artifact for you. And that is extremely, that ownership of your future is extremely critical for organizations, because they have been, for the lack of the better word, bitten by this proprietary nature of some of these technologies in the past, where they adopted a certain technology, they built very critical business logic on top of it, and then the vendor comes and say, hey, we're going to double our price, and there's nothing you can do. There's literally nothing you can do. And some of those vendors, without mentioning names, they would even sue you and send your CFO to prison if you don't pay that higher price. So people learn the lesson from that, and going forward, they truly want to embrace open. One, to get that. I think the number one reason is to get that ability to hold their vendors accountable and make sure that their vendors are building features and asking for new. It's okay to ask for more price, for higher price, but only when you're providing higher value, right? So if you're building true new value that is benefiting me, sure, come ahead and charge me more. But to have the same system and then come and say, okay, now I'm going to double the price, that's just like abusive in nature. We know that. So that's number one. Number two is the innovation aspect, right? When you have an open source technology being developed by you, but by a healthy ecosystem around it, then nothing can beat that in terms of the speed with how it innovates and evolves. And we have seen that over and over again. Again, Kubernetes is a great example of that. TensorFlow, great example. Android, great example. There's so many. I can't even name all of them. And then number three is this ability to hire developers from everywhere, because they know the open standard, they know the technology, and even more better, sometimes the developers might leave you. They have been contributing to the open source project, and they left you. They're working somewhere else, but you're still benefiting from them because they're working on that same open source platform and artifact that you are leveraging as an organization. So that's why I think some of the key reasons why I think open is a very core part of the Google Cloud mission.
I think it's interesting because I think, people think about openness and flexibility and they don't always tie it to innovation. But it's really critical.
Very, yeah. And there's lots of evidence. I mean, I don't want people to just believe my words for that. There's so much evidence out there of how the open source technologies, when you latch onto them and they build a healthy ecosystem around them, you have 100 companies contributing to that project. There's no way a single company can match the level of innovation that's going to happen.
I love the strategy, and something, what we typically say to customers is it's not our goal to be your only cloud provider. It's our goal to be your best. Yeah,
our goal is to be your best cloud provider, and our goal is to help you succeed. That's our goal. Our goal is to help you as a customer succeed. We don't care where you're going to succeed. If it's on Google Cloud Native, that's great. If it's on Anthos, but on top of AWS, for example, which we do support, or BigQuery on top of AWS, which we also do support today, that's great too. If it's on the premises where you have your own servers and you're running it yourselves, we have Anthos for that. That's great too. If it's in a ballpark in the edge, we're very close to where the action is happening and you want to minimize latency, or you have low connectivity and the connection might get cut out, so you need to have a local data center beside the use case, that's fine too. So that's really, we truly believe in that.
Yeah, and I love hearing about just the customer empathy and understanding where the customers are at, so we can truly work with them and partner to solve the problems.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, last Google Cloud related question I have for you. Are there any products that you feel might deserve more exposure, or maybe the community isn't as aware of, and maybe they're solving really difficult or complex challenge that customers are experiencing?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of them already. Like I mentioned Anthos and what it enables in terms of the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. I mentioned all of the AI solutions we're building, like document AI and contact center AI. I absolutely recommend our customers to be looking at that. One of the mind-boggling products that we have here at Google that should get more attention, in my opinion, is Spanner. Spanner is like 20 years ago, I would never imagine that we would have something like that. It's a planet scale database where transactions can be coming in from anywhere across the world and still be fully consistent, fully reliable, fully available, fully isolated, all of the asset kind of letters played out. That's mind-boggling. It's an amazing product, super, super impressive, and I can't stress enough how folks should look at it and take advantage of it. And then last but not least, Cloud Run. Cloud Run, coupled with Cloud Functions, is a layer that sits on top of Kubernetes that truly enables what we refer to as serverless development. Meaning you as a developer, you don't need to think about servers at all anymore. All you think about is the containers that make up your application. And once you finish doing that, you publish them. You set some parameters in the system, in the Cloud Run system, and Cloud Run will do everything for you. Scaling up, scaling down, moving across regions to make sure you stay reliable and available, monitoring the incoming traffic and predicting that it might be going up, and pre-allocate servers so they start going up before the traffic comes. Scaling down all the way to zero, not scaling down to 1, scaling down to 0, meaning if there's no traffic, nothing is running and you pay nothing. until traffic starts coming back. Many other organizations, they only scale you down to one server. You cannot scale to zero. So it's also a magnificent product that I highly recommend more of our customers look at and take advantage of.
Thanks for sharing. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit more personal. Just have three kind of personal questions we typically end with. What advice would you give going back in your career to your younger self or to young developers out there just getting started in tech?
Yeah, my key advice would be follow your passion. Follow your passion. I think you will succeed and do a lot. You will do way better and stand out way better compared to your peers and everybody around you if you're passionate about the thing you're working on. So follow your passions as much as you can. So don't go and study medicine if you don't love medicine. Don't go and study law if you don't love law. Don't go study technology if you don't love technology. Make sure the thing you're studying, the thing you're working on, the first job that you get, as much as possible is aligned with the passion. Now, the first job out of school, you cannot be very picky, of course, because it's your first job. But I would say very quickly, try like that first job, spend a couple of years there. But if you're not loving it, move on, because your passion and your love for that first job and your love for that second job is what's going to make your career skyrocket. So that's my key advice.
It's great advice, and it's hard to understand what you're passionate about before you have your first job because you've never done anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's why in universities, the university system that we have here in the US, so you can study multiple majors or majors and minors at the same time. It's also, I think, is a good approach because it gives you that exposure. You're still searching for what your passion is. And that's why also during school, we study all of these other topics that we eventually never end up using. Like, I don't use biology anymore or chemistry anymore. Yeah. But because you don't know, maybe it is going to be your passion. And if you don't get exposed to it, you will not know. Yeah.
And it's great advice. There's no, secret shortcut to success. It's hard work, but it's a lot easier to work hard when you're having fun.
Exactly.
So it's really good advice.
Yes.
And then last question, what's something that folks might not know about you outside of your work in technology?
I think my close circle of friends or family would know I'm a gamer. I'm a hardcore video gamer. I love video games. My favorite game ever is Halo. With Master Chief as the main character of that game. He's kind of my alter ego, I would say. In fact, in my office here, I'm going to show you in a second. I'll bring it over. This is the helmet that Master Chief puts on in the Halo games, right? I wish I had one I could wear. This one is just for show. I cannot put it on, but that's how much I believe in that ego of being a selfless leader who just wants everybody around them to be happy and succeed. And that's how they lead, and that's why I kind of believe in that in that character. But gaming at large is something I'm very passionate about. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Well, hey, Amr, thank you so much for sharing, and I appreciate your time today. If I wanted to learn more about you, your team's work, where should I go and look?
I think one of the best places would be YouTube, actually. So on YouTube, we have the Google Cloud Tech channel. So if you go in YouTube and search for Google Cloud Tech, you'll find lots of videos from our team explaining, including myself. You'll see my face there too, but my team at large produces way more content than I do, talking about the different things on Google Cloud, and that will give you a lot of exposure to what DevRel does overall. So I highly recommend you take a look at that. Amazing.
Well, Amr, thanks again. Appreciate you sharing. I will see you on Twitch playing Halo. Thanks again for joining the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. See you.